Mother Nature is the most amazing thing that exists, and we get to live and work in it every day, you know. So instead of going out there and thinking that you're constantly at war, you go out there and you actually just love and appreciate, you know, the farm that you've got, and you just try everything that you do. You try and, like you do with kids, you know, you try and feed them well and just raise them up rather than, you know, pushing it down, suppressing it, you know.
That was Nina Bray, and you're listening to The Regenerative Journey. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and internationally, and their continuing connection to country, culture, community, land, sea and sky. And we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, an 8th generational Australian regenerative farmer. And in this podcast series, I'll be diving deep and exploring my guests' unique perspectives on the world so you can apply their experience and knowledge to cultivate your own transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to The Regenerative Journey with your host Charlie Arnott.
G'day, this week's interview is with Mitch and Nina Bray, graduates of our biodynamic course, one of them from 2018. And what's fascinating, one of the many things that's fascinating about these guys is the way they've integrated biodynamics wholly and solely into their organic cropping practices, which for me is fascinating because many of the requests I get for information is how do we actually, you know, farm more regeneratively, how do we crop more regeneratively, I should say. You know, how do we take chemicals out and what do we replace them with, and how do we maintain, you know, sound financials and economics in that sort of space. So that's what we talk about a lot. We talk about Mitch's health scare that certainly, was contributed to his regenerative journey, relocating to the coast, why they do that, some of the enterprises, you know, the intricacies of transitioning, and it's a fascinating chat. Love these guys. They are really standout practitioners of biodynamics and organics, and they're just so energetic and so positive and always got wonderful ideas that I'm just can't wait to follow. And just before we jump into the interview, I just want to let you know and remind you that Hamish, Mackay and I will be down in South Australia with all those wonderful crow eaters down there at Barossa, the Barossa Valley, on the 3rd and 4th of May at the Alkena Wine Estate, there with Dan and Amelia and all those wonderful people. Now, just to make a note of that, we are just talking about how biodynamics applies to wine and viticulture. It is about horticulture. It's about broadacre. It's about small-scale garden. It's whatever you want to, however you want to apply biodynamics to your world and your life. So there on the 3rd and 4th of May in the Barossa Valley at the Alkena Wine Estate, and on the 6th and 7th of May, that's later in that same week at McLaren Vale at Gem Tree Wines there with Melissa and Michael, who produce some amazing wines, as does the Alkena Estate. So just to reinforce that, you don't have to be a wine grower. You might want to be a grape eater, but not a wine grower or a winemaker to come to these courses down there in South Australia. They are open to everyone. So spread the news far and wide. We'd love to see you there. Tickets available on charliearnott.com.au. and get all the details and tickets there. Love to see you down in South Australia. Cannot wait to get down there, and haven't been there for a while, so looking forward to it. So I hope you too enjoy as much as I did this interview with Mitch and Nina Bray. Neens, Mitch, welcome to the Regenerative Journey. We're watching Hamish, Mackay drive in here, and the dog bark as we sit out looking across your 400 acres. Yep. In the in what valley are we in? We're in the Sunshine Coast sort of region, but what valley are we in?
We're in the Noosa Hinterland.
Yeah. Is this a particular valley though? Like, is this like the Forbidden Valley or the, you know?
No, it's sort of, it's just on the edge of the hinterland. So, you know, there's mountains over there. That's the ridge, and we're sort of down on the flats, and you know, Lake Catharaba is not too far away, and then Double Island past that, And we're just we're on the northern side of Noosa. So for those who know, Noosa is reasonably well known in this part of the world, and we're sort of looking like northwest, northeast.
towards Kin, yeah, out that way. So, guys, thank you very much for your time. We've just done day one of our 2-day introduction to biodynamics course in your shed. And I've got to say, you have set a new standard in hosting of courses. Well, clearly, okay, Nina, I should be thanking then, Mitch.
Nina, definitely.
It is so professional, and I was actually thinking I might take you to the next round of courses just to help set up. No, it's really, we've got 30 enthusiastic people, and your organic group, you've got a little organic group which we can talk about a bit later on. No, I'm clicking my pen. We'll get to that too, because I think that in itself is a really fascinating little thing that you guys are involved in. I've got this is a bit of an experiment, listeners. I've got a couple, two people who happen to be a couple. For the first time, I usually interview individuals, but I thought that you've got such a compelling joint story that I really wanted to drill down. Is that echoey? It's not too bad there. On the veranda, the Italian bachelor's veranda, I believe. This is when you bought this place.
Yep.
Now, the podcast is called The Regenerative Journey for a reason. I want to sort of dig into your regenerative journeys. There's individual ones, I guess, to a point, and then you've been doing some amazing things. You are essentially, cropping. You've got cattle. You've got some amazing projects on the go. Why are we here? Why are we on this bit of land in this part of the world, you two?
Well, we purchased the beach farm, which is what we call this property, at Noosa in January 2019. And I guess we've got 3 properties that are out on the Downs. And the reason why we're here is because we kind of saw the need to diversify. Back in 2019, we just noticed that the climate had changed in our region. And, whether if it was going to stay that way or whether if it was a cyclical thing, we still knew that we needed to diversify, our property. So that's sort of why we looked here. Also Mitch is a surfer, so he was keen to get somewhere near the beach.
That didn't have anything to do with it.
Nothing to do with it, but yeah.
And just to sort of put that into context, what's the differences between the property out west and here?
They're kind of like the complete opposite. Polar opposites. Yeah. Mitch can probably.
Why don't you tell us, Mitch? Don't be shy.
Mate, thanks, Charlie. It's great because when you get into your farm and you've been doing it for a while in one specific place, this is giving you challenges that totally opposite to what you're used to. So I guess you get to a place where you get to experiment more, which is cool. And keep that.
Why are you able to experiment more? Is it because you got more rain? More rain. You haven't got more land.
No, it's less land. But it's that beautiful thing from the sky that can, you can bank on it, so therefore you can play around with pasture cropping and different things like that, And
that presents a whole lot of different challenges, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it brings up a heap of things you got to look at changing, but that's part of the fun.
What are you going to do with all that grass? That's a good problem to have.
Mate, we've got a lot of different things in pipeline. So Nina's, we've got our license for hemp and all different things, so we're going to try. I think this environment, this microclimate here there's a couple of different things we can try, yeah.
So, and what does it mean to be here? I guess emotionally, if you can, being a man, you mightn't have many emotions. I don't have many. But what does it mean to be here? You've got surf, which is obviously something you like to do. Your family's here, you're here, a portion of the time. Is it sort of, and you've only been here for a short period of time, so is it sort of, you happy you moved? Is it something was a good move?
For me, I think it's good because kids have settled in and
there's a really amazing community here, Charlie. I think that's probably the most important thing, wherever you are. Community is everything. And we really feel like we've made such strong, amazing friendships since we've been up here. And, as you said earlier, we've got an organic group. So we've found some really amazing producers, like-minded producers that, we just have this, beautiful relationship with. And it's just like an open round table. And, after being out on the Downs, we've got some fantastic friends out there too. But we sort of felt like we were doing a lot of the, you know, the transition to organic alone and without the support of other people. So it's an amazing environment up here. We absolutely love it.
You found your little tribe in a way.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about tribes. Let's go back to, you know, I guess, what were you doing, both of you, before you might call you had a change in your thinking about farming? You know, you're both well, you tell me the story. Mitch, when we start with you, in sort of, you know, what were you doing before to get to a point where you went, I'm going to, you know, change?
Yeah, so I had a
bit of background, mate.
Nina and I got together in 2010, 11 and decided we wanted to try farming. She had her nursing and I had diesel fitting behind me before that. And then we said, yep, we're going to give it a go, start a family.
So you weren't, but Nina, you grew up on a farm?
Yep, I grew up on a sheep farm, sheep farm at Millmerran. My parents have still got a Dorper stud out there now. And, I grew up sort of in the shearing sheds and fencing and doing sheep work. So I love it. I did go to boarding school in Brisbane, but Mitch and I both went to high school in Brisbane. And then we sort of managed to find our way back out after doing the Brisbane thing for a little while and found ourselves back in a very small country town, which is where we met at the local pub, actually. So
you met at the pub doing different things. So you're working in town. You're at the pub.
Yeah, I was at the pub. I was studying nursing at the time, and I was working at the hospital. So Mitch walked in one day, and that was the end of it. I know. Yeah, yeah.
What was Mitch doing there?
Drinking, not working.
Did Mitch have his chair in the corner going, this is Mitch's chair?
No. I am very seldom in there actually. But I was diesel fitting at the time and
contracted,
going everywhere. Yeah, just trying to.
So you just happened to be there doing some work, like contractor there?
Well, I bought a little block there and just out of town. As a bit of I parked it and thought, you know, I'll get to that soon.
You had at least.
Yeah, and when I met Nina, it was time to pick it up and run with it. So yeah, my family originally comes from Quambone, and we sort of moved around a fair bit off that as a young person, then ended up in Brisbane. And then met Nina, full steam ahead, give this farming a red hot crack.
Why farming? Because you could have you're a diesel mechanic. You could have kept on doing that. Nina could have worked in the hospitals.
Yep.
You could have moved to Brisbane, or why farming?
It's family.
Yeah, I think we both.
You two cuddle up a bit around that microphone. If you like.
I think we both had the underlying urge of I wanted to farm, and you love farming. So
I didn't ever think that I'd actually end up back on the land, you know. And I think when I grew up, you know, we went through some significant drought periods, and my father, you know, he never encouraged us. Well, he never openly encouraged us, you know. I think he sent us to Brisbane so we could, you know, see all these different situations, and you know, I don't think he ever expected me, probably, especially, to end up back on the land. But farming is, you know, so shortly after we, you know, probably 2011, I had Annabella, our first child. So that was pretty quick for us. And that really changed everything. That was definitely a catalyst for change for us. You know, we had this conventional farm and we decided to go into farming, and we went and we geared up and we bought
a lot of contracting.
Yeah. Bought the big tractors and we were full, you know, black soil conventional farmers. You know, we had a gas rig, we gassed everything. And
so you know, chemicals,
spraying, urea, you know, the whole shebang.
Conventional cropping,
because that's how you did it, you know, and then
told to do it that way.
Yeah,
you were told. Yeah,
well, if you talk to an agronomist or any of that.
Yep.
Mainstream, that you get in that system, don't you?
Is that what you did? Did you go back to the farm, your block? So that's where you started, and then you went, I'm going to farm. What do I do? You know, and you went, okay, local agronomist.
Yep. Grabbed an independent agronomist. So I'd done farming pre in between, out west at around Torwood and out that way. But yeah, grabbed the agronomist. We got into the system. You got to pre-fertilise, you got to spray, you got to plant. You got to
I guess the recipe, the seasonal recipe. Yeah.
Yep. And we started doing that. We were working really hard a lot. We had 3 kids.
Yeah.
We were really pushing hard, because we bought another farm, and then from that we bought another farm, and we were contracting. We were doing a lot of work. We were busy.
And it was Mitch and I for a really long time. Yeah. So we didn't have staff. Sorry, Charlie, I'm just microphone.
No. It's all right.
Yeah, we didn't have staff for a long time. It was just Mitch and I. I remember, having children and having newborns in the car, and I'd be going out and helping, fill planters in the middle of the night. Mitch worked pretty much 24 hours a day. We'd be contracting and I'd be going out, in the middle of the night to make sure, drop things off or whatever needs to happen. It was a really, really, really fast period. We grew quickly, but we put the work in to do it. And
probably not an uncommon situation.
No,
young
that's what
couple,
you have
kids
to do.
growing up, decide to farm, whether it's on the downs or anywhere where I guess you were essentially cropping as well. Did you have cattle at the time?
Mate, it was just cattle. We had just sheep to start with.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that.
and then we went to cattle because our block flooded 3 times and I'd re-fenced 3 times.
Oh, good.
Yep, we went to cattle, but that was never a focus. Our focus was because we geared up contracting to do the cropping.
So that was your focus, yeah. Yep. And again, not an uncommon thing for the investments made, the mortgage is probably taken out, expansion, and were you under pressure externally or internally to expand? Was it the matter of that felt like the right thing to do, or you went, no, this is actually...
We were just unstoppable.
Pushing, and we were just pushing.
Yeah.
We just, we looked at every farm that came up for sale. We were really good at doing numbers. And, we had a great, we had great support through our bank manager at the time as well. They were great, and we were great at crunching numbers. We knew what we could make out of properties. And
I remember asking him. I said, "Oh, is there, don't smart farmers do off-farm investment?" And he goes, "Mate, look at it. Just keep doing what you're doing. That's the investment you need to be doing." So that's what we did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which again in itself wasn't probably a bad idea in terms of if it was working, that type of approach. Then who was going to say you got to do something else or buy property somewhere else or off farm invest?
Yeah.
And then what? So kids came along. What was there a moment when was there a particular exact moment you can pinpoint, or was there a series of events that led you to change from obviously that high input sort of?
Neen always had an undertone of organics.
Yeah. What did that look like? Like the odd organic thing in the cupboard, or?
No. We always we sort of, as soon as I had children. Well, okay. So the catalyst, I went to an obstetrician as soon as I found out I was pregnant with my first child. We went there, and he spoke about me in front of me into a dictaphone, and it was just the most strangest conversation or situation that we'd sort of been in. We were like, young, first child, and anyway, I found midwives, and that was probably the catalyst.
So just go back to the dictaphone thing. Was it? He
was talking about me into the dictaphone while I was sitting across the table from
as if you weren't there.
Yeah, as if I was
like number 1097.
And it was like, I think I was like 15 weeks or something, and he was like, I think we need to book you in for a cesarean, and anyway, we found the first private midwives, I think, in Australia. They started in Toowoomba, amazing people. And so I had my 3 children through private midwives, and that was a big catalyst for change, because they really just put in that situation, they put the power back in our hands and said, this is what you need to go home and research, go and do it, and then come back to me and let's have a conversation. And as soon as I think that was just so empowering for us, because we really just realized that we could choose the way that we wanted to do things. And that happened in farming then as well. Mitch used to spray. We had spray rigs. He was a spray contractor. And I remember we've just renovated our house out there, and we put in all of these bifolds and these windows. And Mitch would come along with the spray rig, right out the front of the house. And
I wasn't that bad.
No. But he was the one who was
Come
like,
on, you two.
get off the property. I don't want you here while I'm spraying. And so, children were probably the catalyst there.
We definitely both had undertone. Nina, as always, being female, is smarter than us and start.
No arguments there.
So I was a bit slow to pick up. But as we were doing it, podcasts, sitting in tractors listening to different things, and you get pulled naturally, I think, in different ways, and something pops up, oh, that's interesting, we'll listen to that, and it sort of almost pulls you to where you need to go, I guess you'd say.
Do you remember any particular podcasts or shows or individual interviews that were significant, and you went, oh my God, this is...
It actually started in the financial sector with people that sort of were away from the mainstream, and then after that sort of tipped over into the farming arena. As for people, I can't think of the first people I went to, but it just was a natural progression, and the same thing with Biodynamics. How we got there, that was just a huge natural progression, and everything fell into place. So Nina, we got across the line organically. Our home farm initially.
Yeah.
And then our other two were still conventional. Purely from the fact that we had no idea about organics, and because we were pushing, we still needed production.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford just to trial and error and cop that. So we tipped our toes into home, and now we've got confidence there.
Yeah, we have been fortunate. The agronomists that we work with out on the downs, we've had so many big table discussions with him. He's definitely, he's open to organics, and he's really into, supporting that as well. So we have been fortunate in that way. Mitch and I are both big researchers. Mitch would spend hours and hours in the tractor or whatever machine he was in, listening to podcasts on all sorts of different things. But, I think 2014-15 we went organic, certified organic on our home farm. And we kind of just did it. Like we didn't do the whole farm. We started off with, one
half of it.
With half of it. And, you can do that in organics. And that just makes it easier. Like Mitch said, we still needed production. We'd just expanded. We needed to be able to pay the bills, etc. So
it was a gradual, gradual transition into there.
Yeah.
So you could actually you could certify half your farm.
Yep.
Start there.
Yep.
Implement whatever practices you are. What were you? So just on that, because I'm not that I'm necessarily saying that people have to get certified organic just to transition to regenerative ag type stuff, but
definitely not.
In terms of what did you change? So you were, again, as you said, conventional cropping, so high input, high output. What did dipping your toe in the water look like?
So early on, even before that, was like Nina said, we've got a gas rig, and the biggest thing for me was we had a flood and a paddock where I'd gassed pre-plant, and I could still see, and this was a couple of seasons prior, I could still see the furrow of the bottom of the disc, the gas disc, anhydrous running in there. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so we got rid of that, and then we evolved. So then the dipping of the toe was probably then, and then with the organics, we it was all about tooling, getting the right tools for the toolbox. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't too many people around us that we could go knock on the door. So it was sort of trial and error, and we're still doing that now. We're still trying different tooling now. We get to do it. Nina's father, he's organic, so we're trialing together different things, which is good. But yeah, like.
Was it? Did you? I mean, it's an interesting, and I love that sort of concept of a toolbox. Because that's what I sort of say to farmers, that like equip yourself. Maybe empty out your old toolbox of your old paradigms and your old tools, literally the gear and the plan, and then equip it with some new tools. Was there anyone? And this is a interesting for me, really interesting, because I'm not a cropper. We don't do what you do. Basically, mainly cattle and sheep and a bit of pasture cropping. But what I get, one of the most requested things, questions that I get is, how do I convert? Well, it's more statements actually. Like you can't do this stuff with cropping. How am I going to, this is the thing that I'm fascinated about, and they say you can't do it. Can't do a broad acre. How can I take out all the chemical? How can I, throw away the gear? How can I produce? And then these guys aren't particularly talking about growing food. They're still probably commodity farmers, but they're stepping in that direction. So that's the fascinating for me. And I'm really relieved, to be honest, because I didn't have the answers for them and I didn't know where to send them. There's a couple of people I know are doing a pretty good job at it. But what you're doing is a reasonably, dare I say, intense way, you're not like just putting in a bit of pasture crop every now and again and whatever. Like you're doing, pretty tight rotations. You've got some beautiful country when it rains, and you are in a you're in a system that's clearly working, So so I want to dig into that a bit more for those, and I excuse the listeners who aren't necessarily farmers, but I hope you can understand by listening to this that this is, whilst it's not something like you're going to go and do in your backyard, like grow a heap of pumpkins or something. Well, you could actually,
Yeah.
grow a few pumpkins. But it's more the concept of there are things that people can do that are, by changing one's mindset. What things did you change in your mind? What did you have to change in your mind? What paradigms did you have to break to step into organics?
Nothing. I mean,
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Having a crystal clean farm everything's dead. So the biggest thing for us was looking at everything and saying, right, you look at anhydrous, urea, you knock down sprays, your seed coatings on your seed, everything's anti-life.
Anti-life.
Yeah, it's anti-life.
Yes,
it's
kill.
Yeah. You're trying to wipe out nature.
Mm.
So we just flipped that on its head and said, all right, well, how can we work with life and give pro-life? So whenever we did cultivations or something, we might put out some biology as we're doing it. Seed coatings now is pro microbiology and biodynamics. Sprays the same. It's all pro life. So it's fish emulsions, kelps, things like that. The thing that we need to probably get better at is cultivation. We're working on that. My agronomist is pretty smart there and dragging up some good old machines that probably could be rejigged and are going to be a very good tool now.
To cultivate less or in a different way, or what do you need?
Less and not as aggressively. Because a prime example for us, we're black soil. We're on heavy black soil, so we still need to store moisture for our program to work. So our system is different compared to, say, Nina's father, he's on lighter soil with grazing in the mix. So his organic toolbox is different looking than ours, but there's a couple of things we can cross over. So for us, storing moisture is still is an important thing. And then once that happens, then the rest of it sort of falls back into the old school row cropping scenarios, things like that.
So how do you store moisture? Because in the old days, and we used to do it, was, bare summer fallow, where we would, you don't want your bloody anything growing because it's going to rob the moisture. And of course, what we didn't know was that there was no biology in the soil left. And when we went to plant, we'd have to prop everything up with all these inputs.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why we if we're doing cultivations and things like that, we do use biology to, if we're knocking things, if we know we're going to knock them around, we put things in there to support them. Yeah.
So you're still using some traditional chemicals as part of the program, the growing? No chemicals. No chemicals at all. No. That's great.
So our organic farms are fully organic, but our conventional farms.
That's right. So this is the great thing. You've actually got sort of like a ongoing experiment in a way, haven't you?
Yeah. So our conventional farms are driven. The fertility, there hasn't been urea in there for 4 or 5 years. Our starters and things like that. We still do knockdown sprays on there, but we use bringing things in like fulvic humate acids that they used to use to potentize chemical, so you use less. But on the flip side, it helps break down it drives biology to break it down quicker. So yeah, there's still things we can improve.
So the organic farm, you obviously, to get certification, that was a quicker process. Like you went, okay, we've got to be certified, so we've got to actually drop things out pretty much immediately and cold turkey in a way. How did that go?
It was good. Our first organic crop was wheat, and winter is definitely easier, I think, organic than summer in our area, just because of the types of weeds that we have common problems with. And yeah, I mean, it worked well. We always used manure on our property, and then we went to compost. We did the Elaine Ingham course with the soil food web, and we learned how to make compost and compost teas, which was really interesting, and just to understand the soil more. And that was just we wanted to work with it rather than against it, with the constant sort of warfare. But our first crop was wheat, and I think going organic, especially back then, it was really interesting when it came time to harvest and actually market the grain. On the conventional market, wheat's this much. On the organic market, I remember calling, 5 or 6 different people, and there would be like $200 difference a ton. It was just like, it was kind of like the Wild West, it was just so different to the conventional marketing. That's changed a lot.
But
now.
A pleasant surprise.
A pleasant surprise, yeah, absolutely. When you got the decent, yeah.
And what about the yield? I mean, in terms of less inputs, I guess, from the chemical point of view. What about, was there a financially and I guess as you went through the years and year 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, that you were sort of fine tuning? What are for those croppers thinking about? Oh, well, how am I going to bloody drop out my chemical and maintain my yield and my quality and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so our yield, it didn't really suffer that much. It maybe dropped a little, but like we've grown organic corn next to our conventional corns, and
it out-yielded it.
And
yay!
Really? Sorghums, and we've been up there. So, and
also on our organic farm, we get more crops off it. Like, especially in the harsh seasons, we've had a couple of doozy years, and we've still got something off it on our organic farm. And what we get off, we get paid for.
Because other people probably haven't got something off.
Yeah, and the commodity price is so much higher. Yeah. So it's actually worked out,
Our cost of production.
And our cost of production is, is better. Yeah. It's not nothing, but we're not organic farmers that don't. Mitch puts... we use fish hydrolysate, we use kelp, we obviously use a lot of biodynamics. We have our machines are all set up for liquid injection at planting. That's a huge part for us. If you've got liquid injection, we make all of our own gypsy juice cocktails depending on what the plant needs. And we rely heavily on our water systems, on our tractors. Yeah.
So if the organic is going well, the organic farm and the organic sort of certified part of the farm and the production there, why wouldn't you move the rest over into organics, or would you, or thinking about it, or why the different, keeping it separate?
Yeah. So,
or is it more of an experiment?
No. So that was definitely what we wanted to do, but the contracting sort of tied us up. So we time poor, I guess you could say. We at the moment are looking at a couple of machines that would make it a little bit easy and less time poor that would be able to do that. The other thing though too, Charlie, for me is bringing animals back. Like, you need animals in the system. A lot of croppers don't like animals on cropping country. But for me, and I when I was contracting on a neighbour's place who does it a lot, I was like, I wonder why he keeps doing this. And just being there and working there and watching it, he did just as well, if not better, than anyone else.
So what is it about having animals in the system?
Well, I think they worry about having animals run over cultivation pre-crop. You're not storing enough moisture. You're making it harder. You're doing all this sort of thing. But there's tools, once again, in the toolbox. You can let them do their thing, fertilise, turn weeds over, and all that, and then run in behind them, and away you go, you know.
So they're bringing a whole different fertility cycle with them in a way.
Yeah, different fertility cycle. They're also doing a good job on specific plants that you want to probably eliminate, that otherwise you'll be chasing with steel or something else. But yeah, no, I think that's the other thing. So our other farms aren't quite set up to be able to be managed with animals. So I'd like it, they have to have animals on it for us to be organic.
That's almost like that's just one of the tools that's in the organic toolbox.
Yeah.
And I think another reason why the other two properties aren't organic is because we've grown cotton on them. They've both currently got cotton planted. It's a controversial subject, and I'm very aware of that. But we have grown cotton for years now, and it's interesting being part of. The cotton industry is very well set up, you know, and we do it well. You know, he's dropped the urea, and you know he's doing huge amounts of foliars on them. He took out the Australian dryland cotton in 2018 for the highest yielding, and
didn't you get the world record or something? Come on, talk it up, pump up your tyres.
No, it's
the Australian dryland cotton record. Yeah.
Oh no, it was in the universe.
Oh yeah, in the cosmos. It was best ever.
But so just so I'm clear on that, so it was a you took out that award, best dryland cotton farmer or crop, and
11.8 7 bales yielded.
So that's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And that is using. So what would if a conventional cotton farmer heard that and you told them what you did to do it, like the inputs, what would they say? As in, what did you do? Like you were using the fish emulsions and natural this and natural that.
So at the start it was quite a wet season. It was waterlogged. So we were right. We need to really pull this plant assisted out of this situation. So we were just pushing your kelps and your fishes and all that sort of thing to try and stimulate biology to get air and the root system going. And then there was Loveland, which is a part of the Landmark branch. They are doing work into that area, the biology sector as well, like Bayer and everyone else now they're catching on to we need these guys to work for us.
There's something in this biology stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we were trying some of their stuff, which I believe and a couple other people on the Downs see a result. So anyone who uses compost and manures, these biological sort of inputs break that plant available down and make it. It's almost like a servant to the root system, you know, like here it is, take it, and therefore you get a response. So yeah, we're pushing, and my thing is small amounts more often if you're going with the season, and that's what we did. We spent a lot of money on that crop, probably another half of what a general cotton crop would cost us per hectare, because we just kept going with it and feeding, trying to feed it as it requires, any extra excess that it didn't have. But yeah, so I think we were getting pretty close to like our fertility program and all that is pretty close. That's not an issue for us now, which is good. We can sleep well at night now with that.
As in, you've got a pretty good sort of a system
robust
in place.
We have a good toolbox of our inputs that we can use if we require them, and so that's not the hard part. And I think that, you know, when you go into organics from conventional and you make that step, that's the thing that you worry about the most. You're like, well, hang on, am I going to plant seeds and they're not going to come up because they don't get, they don't have the urea, or
Not going to yield.
no, they're not going to yield. But that is actually not a thing. Yeah.
It's a real paradigm to break, isn't it? That to put your faith in the biology, I guess, put your faith in nature.
Absolutely.
Right? What the natural process is, that you are giving a bit of a kick along, bit of fish, a bit of kelp.
Yeah.
For the right reasons, in a sort of in a way that, as you say, it's really interesting that you're doing it a little bit more often. You sort of it's a sort of a slow release feed, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Less more often is much better. And I think also, we sit down with our agronomist at the start of a season and we go, well, this is what we're going to plant. What are the potential problems? And you can, just know what to treat it with from the start. And having that really helps, because you don't want to get into the middle of a crop cycle and go, oh, we've got this huge problem and we don't know how to deal with it. I mean, we still need, our crops to grow, and we still need to be able to harvest and perform. So, that really helps as well, I think. Yeah.
What would you say to? Okay, another quick question. What are you growing? Like, just to give us a sense of, what are the crops? What are the things you're producing out there and here,
mate?
Just to give people a sense of, okay, this all sounds nice, but like, what are we seeing from the result of all this cool stuff,
mate? So on our organic farm, we grow everything just like the conventional ones. Anything from soys, mungs, sorghum, corn, wheat, barley, millet, whatever is a good agronomic fit as well. That's a big thing. You need to.
We do a lot of legumes as well.
Yeah, so in our wheat we'll plant a bit of vetch, undersoil like that. There is a thing called relay cropping that I'm keen to look at, maybe. Relay. So it's say you got a wheat crop coming through. And then at a certain stage, maybe just for head emergence or something, you run through some soybeans underneath it.
While the wheat's still growing, still there. Really?
You'll harvest it and then the soybeans are already sort of up and
on
coming.
The way. Yeah, right.
So you're getting the symbiotic relationship there. Driving
totally.
Your nitrogen as well.
Yep. I guess that's probably a good time to give it a boost at that.
Well, coming out in emergence, and then you're setting your protein up and all that. So there's a couple of different things, but we grow anything. Cotton. I'd love to try some organic cotton if we get the opportunity.
If you can get the seed.
Yeah.
And for those, I guess, croppers who, or people listening who, maybe conventional croppers or even dabbling in it, what would you say is some of the things? Again, they'd have to change up here, paradigms to break or things to even focus on, And there's things that they would have to stop doing, and they probably know what that is. Or maybe identify what would they stop doing, what would they start doing?
Like I said,
generally,
the hardest thing is expecting a clean slate. Like weeds are, and not even weeds, plants are good because you want your IPMs working, so my agronomist loves his IPM, so he loves
IPM for those
beneficial
integrated pest management.
Yeah, so beneficial pests, like keeping everyone in balance and check. So you have those. Like at the moment, I've got a plot that we're trialing for pasture cropping out there, but it's perfect in the summer because it's full of lucerne and sorghum and chicory and all these different species that are flowering, and our beneficials are there, like next to our soybeans, so that we got a soybean crop next to it. So I think the biggest thing is expecting everything to be perfectly clean. I'd love to start planting now with GPS, planting some flower rows or something like that, like in between
trap crops or
and using sunflowers and things
and just different things, because you got to remember, once the crop's done, we like to bring our animals in there anyway, so it's for the little guys and the big guys.
Are you looking for more information to assist you on your regenerative journey? We've created an online community of supporters with exclusive access to interview transcripts, live online Q&A sessions with Charlie and his interviewees, as well as the opportunity to be interviewed on the show yourself. If you would like to be part of this community, or would simply like to contribute to the development of the podcast series, please make your way to patreon.com/The Regenerative Journey podcast. We look forward to you becoming a member of the Regenerative Journey community. Let's get back to this week's episode.
So what else would they need to, again, the croppers, focus on or change? So, not having a nice, neat sort of but dead farm. What?
Well, I think so. We have trees on all of our properties, which sets us apart from a lot of people in our area. Most people like to flatten every gum because they steal the moisture. And, that's really important, I think, for the integrated pest management, having a habitat for your natives. And I think also, Mitch said before, just switching your mind from anti-life to pro-life. So even if we don't have, we don't get our seed, we get our seed all bare. So it's not coated in a fungicide or pesticide or whatever they put on it. And, that's one basic change. And we switch that up with using seed coating of, biodynamic preps and molasses, other things. I think just changing, we live in this incredible, Mother Nature is the most amazing thing that exists. And we get to live and work in it every day, So instead of going out there and thinking that you're constantly at war, you go out there and you actually just love and appreciate, the farm that you've got, and you just try everything that you do. You try and, like you do with kids, you try and feed them well and just raise them up rather than, pushing it down, suppressing it,
Nurture.
Yeah, nurture. And there are tools, with weeds. Obviously, weeds are a huge thing. We have an interrow cultivator, you can use that. There are ways and means around it. It's not a perfect situation, but we have I don't think it's dirty. Our organic farm's not dirty.
But our, it's a prime example. When we cultivate, that's prime opportunity for giving plants what they need. So we ban spray as we go through. And yes, we've cultivated, but a lot of that stuff's also going to generate biology deeper underneath that band that we've just disturbed.
So just on that one, excuse me, back to weeds. Again, in a conventional situation, weeds are the enemy. We want monocrops because we just don't want the drama of robbing moisture or nutrients or having to, when we harvest, having to bloody clean it and that sort of thing. I mean, how's your paradigms changed about weeds? We sort of tapped into it a bit there, but what would you say to croppers that, just go, oh my God, I can't get my head around, two things growing in my paddock?
Yeah, so we're actually, the next thing we're going to look at doing is doing because there are people like multi-species. We're looking at hopefully supplying multi-species. So you can have 4 or 5 different things growing, and we'll just go in and take that out
as it is organically. However, we don't want weeds in our crops. They are a pain. I mean, they do exist, but we try and keep our crops as clean as possible. And, that's meant that sort of in the last 18 or in the last 12 months, we've now split our property up into different paddocks because we did have problem areas. So now, where we have Johnson grass out there. So we've got one patch that's really bad for Johnson's grass. So we're managing that differently now. So it doesn't go into a summer crop cycle. There are really basic things and ways that you can manage it. But it just means that you have to look at the farm a bit differently, So we've split up our paddocks now. We worked with our agronomists to do that and just to get our problem areas and so we can manage them differently.
Which is a great point because, again, getting back to recipes and going, I've got, so many thousands of acres and this is the recipe I'm going to apply to this 5,000 acres. Within that 5,000 acres, there can be many different soil types,
Absolutely.
Undulations, all sorts of things. And I think it's a really important point that, sort of identifying different styles of management, appropriate management for different areas, and then the question is, well, why? Well, why? Because you want a particular outcome. And sometimes that comes with, I want an outcome for that area because I want it, and then actually letting go of that and going, actually, I need to step back from being so attached to the outcome because that area is never going to produce that. That area is much better suited to
something else. And, I think also, we're people that go out and wake up every day at war with weeds I mean, we're on floodplain. We're never not going to have a weed burden. Like, you know.
It's not a war you're going to win.
Exactly. Like, why would you dedicate your life to going.
How long did it take you to work that out?
Yeah.
Because it took me a long time.
Seriously. It's
It took us a long time too. The best thing about the weeds is we get to bring some nice lamb back in, I guess, too, because they're a great weed targeter.
Sheep.
Sheep.
Cool,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so having the sheep, the cattle.
We have fenced our home, our organic home farm 3 times, and it's been washed away by floods. So that makes sheep a little less, you know, attractive.
But they're such a good tool and tools.
Yeah.
You can run sheep on a single wire.
You got to train them,
You
right?
got to train them. Yeah, you do need to train them.
Got to train my cows at the moment too. They're getting a bit naughty.
Yeah.
We did have cows out on our organic farm as well, and our cows haven't had any vet chems for 6 years either, which I think is, you know, on the downs was probably a bit easier. We moved them up during the drought to the beach farm, so they're here now, and they're Black Angus. So that's something that a lot of people said we couldn't do, and we've managed to do it organically, and it took a bit of time and a bit of nurturing, but it can be done. You know, these things, they all can be done.
Just on that one, because we were talking about it yesterday, you know, as you said, people said you can't do it. You know, don't be bloody bringing those Western cattle down here because it won't work. You know, because there is tick and there's fly, and they're not used to that. You know, what was, I guess, what were some of the things you do to combat that, or to you know, make that transition easier for them and actually, you know, help them adapt, as it were.
Yeah. So I think, you know, we started off, you know, as soon as they got off the truck, you know, they got rescue remedy. They obviously went into quarantine because we were organic up here.
So rescue remedy being homeopathic?
Homeopathic, yeah.
I want to get back to that.
We use a lot of homeopathics with our cows. We trough dose. It's super easy. And if there's one that's looking a bit off in the paddock, I literally have, you know, spray bottles, and I have them on the jet.
Squirty bit, yeah.
And I squirt it on their nose as I'm driving around checking them, and that's it. It's done. It's
Who makes those homeopathics?
I've got them from a place in New Zealand called Similimum, because I studied homeopathy for humans. So I had access to that. There are a few people that do agro homeopathy, I'm sure, in Australia. I know that there's a couple that do vet. But yeah, I've sort of made up my own remedies, and I use that a lot for 3-day because we have buffalo fly here. We've really had to do a targeted approach with ticks and buffalo fly. We use a combination of everything.
Fly trap. Boss bag, Kandanga farm style.
Yeah, they're from
What is that?
The boss bags. So that's the diatomaceous earth that they go in.
Where we are the other day,
Yeah,
so diatomaceous earth
and a bit of sulfur and
so we saw that. So it's basically diatomaceous earth in a hessian bag that sort of hangs vertically, and they sort of rub up on that.
Yep, they go powder themselves.
Which is fascinating, isn't it? They know they go because they don't have to do that. You're not like sprinkling it on them. They go, I need a dose.
Yeah, they realise the benefit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love it. So we do that. We also, when we purchased the beach farm, it has a cow shower, which is a race, you know, with all of the different nozzles, and we use that a lot. So,
what are you putting on them for that?
Well, we use salt. We use saline and essential oils, which is
Himalayan rock salt.
Yeah, pretty much, and it must change the pH of their skin. When we first got here, we used a really oily based shower, but we just found that it almost slicked them too much and trapped the heat into them. So we've just gone back to we're trialing at the moment, which is working quite well. Just using salt.
Really? So they get a salt shower.
Bath, yeah,
and that's you got to run them through the yards to do that specifically,
yeah.
So that's something you do every now and again.
And you know, obviously
in peak season, obviously.
When we got here, there hadn't been stock on this property for quite a while, so we didn't have any dung beetles either. So our dung beetle population is amazing now.
How did you get? Because I went to pick up some shit yesterday and put the shovel under one, and all there was left was a cap.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. They're amazing. I love them.
How do you think you got them to come back?
We didn't do
freaking out because it took a good 5 months, and we thought, we're gonna have to buy in millions of these things.
Yeah, and we tried to buy them in, and they're really hard to come by in Australia. And
John Feehan, you know John Feehan?
Yeah, I think I spoke to him, but at the time there was a back. Is he from Dung Beetles Australia or something?
I'm not sure what he's. I'll put it in the show notes, but he's from Canberra down that way. He's probably Mr. Dung Beetle.
Yeah, I spoke to him and he was like, "Look, we've got a bit of a backlog at the moment." Okay. So, but we put our cows, brought our cows up here, and they just came back. We didn't do anything obviously apart from not using any sort of systemic vet chems that were going to harm them. And, they're just so active now. You go out there a couple of days later and all you've got is, a cap on the top with a bit of dirt on the top. So
don't be lying in the paddock pretending to be a cow shit because they'll take you away.
Yeah, exactly.
And this was conventionally run before you guys got here? No. The farm?
No, it wasn't.
So it was organic. Naturally run, was it?
Absolutely. The lady who owned, the lady who owned this property, I'm not sure if we're allowed to say who it was. Are we allowed to do that?
She did a very good job.
She did an amazing job. She poured a lot of money into, this was all cane property, and she certainly spent a lot of money on soil health and fertility. So
she did well.
She did really well.
Was that one of the reasons why you bought it? Because it had already had a background, or it's like there's already a bit of a head start in the getting rid of chemical type of thing?
It's just the actual farm itself. I don't think that was a deciding factor.
We didn't purchase it certified. Unfortunately, it had been on the market for quite a while, and they had used Roundup on some of the fences. So we're still in conversion now. So it didn't speed the process up for us. But the farm it's quite an amazing farm for the area. It's 400 acres. It's flat, and it drains well. And in the Noosa Hinterland, it's quite hard to find that.
And so close to the beach.
Yeah, and also being able to try to play around with cropping on it too.
Yeah, you've got that. You've got that ability. Any other sort of interesting things you guys do, whether out west or here, that's in that homeopathic type of thing? I mean, I guess your involvement with Biodynamics. Let's talk about that. You came to a course
2018
at the farm at Byron. So I can't remember, was that in spring or autumn?
Hang on, I think So we sort of maybe missed the fact that Mitch got quite sick in 2018.
Let's talk about that. Do you okay to talk about that? He looks right now.
Yeah, he's so healthy now. This is the most amazing thing. So
tell us about that.
Yeah, so lead up, we were pushing so hard, we were busy, blah, blah, blah.
Harvest.
I had a bit of a reset. It was a perfect thing, actually. It was not a stroke as such, but a restriction, and I lost my left side and ability to pronounce words and things like that.
When you say restriction, what are you talking about?
It wasn't a clot. He's just saying that he had an occlusion. So it wasn't a clot stroke.
So for those who aren't doctors, what does that mean?
Okay, it just means that
Come on, nurse.
Yeah, he stopped blood flow into a part of his brain. Right. Well, that's what happened. He was stressed, and so we had all these great organic ideas, and we'd started the certification. Obviously, our property would have been fully certified in 2018 there. But, with the amount of stress and with the amount of growth that we had done, we weren't necessarily, our children led a very organic lifestyle, but Mitch and I, we lived off coffee and, and our place was, we had a lot of people that, used to come and have a drink on our deck, so we certainly weren't living our best organic lifestyles. And we were working, Mitch was working very solidly, sort of around the clock quite a bit. So we were harvesting. Mitch was on the chaser bin, came off, just started raining. We had our harvest team, which is, probably about 15 people, turn up to have beers on the deck, and Mitch grabbed a beer and, kind of felt funny, came inside and, lost his left side, went to hospital, did the whole shebang. That's how suddenly it happened, but he literally got off the chaser bin, and that's how quickly life can, I guess, completely change. So
how was that for you, Nina? Like, busy time of year, and tell you got off the chaser bin because the harvest had just finished.
Yeah, it was just started raining. No, it hadn't just finished.
You're having a break because of the rain.
Yeah.
So how was that mean to you? That's a big. Oh my God,
it's huge.
And I guess being a nurse, you had your suspicions as to what happened?
I did. Although the hospital, he turned up there and the hospital said that he was dehydrated, and I was like, guys, come on, seriously.
Is that what you're saying to Mitch? Oh, you're just dehydrated. Give you right.
I was going, I'm only dehydrated, though, and don't worry, it's all right. Thinking, Jesus, this is not good.
Yeah,
your left side's just gone. It's like, that's not dehydration.
No, not dehydration. It just... Mitch was not ever going to have a reset without getting hit. Like, you won't go to stop this one, were you? It was a freight train.
Like I said, it was the perfect thing for the great. I'm grateful for it now because we were almost where we were meant to be doing, and this sort of just gave us that little hit, and then we went to the doctors. The way I got onto actual biodynamics was a great doctor said, mate, biochemically you're perfect. You're 35. This is a bit bizarre, And he said, how about you go have a look at a bit of biodynamic Steiner work. I said, okay, I'm open to anything right now. And
this is after a little bit of a recovery, though.
Yeah, this is after recovery because the doctors could never tell me why. And anyway, we finally got to the bottom of it. And so we did that. We went and came to you guys, you and Hamish.
Yeah, at the farm. That was.
So was that your first sort of foray into biodynamics? Like when, Google biodynamics, these blokes are doing a course, let's go and do it.
Well, I was always into homeopathy, and so I was always told by homeopaths that I'd sort of spoken to that biodynamics is, because I always said, I want to use homeopathy on the farm. And they said, look, do biodynamics. That's,
the agricultural version.
So that's sort of, I'd always had an interest in it. But yeah, no, they were really interesting times. Sorry, it's Mitch's recovery. He was sort of in bed couldn't do much for 3 months, and it sort of took us he refused to take any medications either. He did have high cholesterol at the time. He changed his diet and got retested in 3 months, and his cholesterol was 100% better. So we've got people coming in for the Biodynamic course. Good guard dogs.
Who's that?
So we worked really hard and we did everything, and Mitch did everything naturally for 12 months, and he's in better health than he ever has been now, which is amazing. So, and
what was what direction did the biodynamics send you? What did you take away from that 2-day course? How has that sort of set you up or changed your farming or life or whatever? Let's dig into that.
So doing the agricultural side of it was great, and it was bringing some more pieces of the puzzle together to make that easier. But the philosophy side of it just, it sort of really helped. Hamish actually said something yesterday. He I did a similar thing, went through an Anglican school and failed and had all this information that I had no inkling about. And then the biodynamics sort of brought life to that, and then it sort of put it in its place where I went, right, that's, like the stuff you picked up as you were growing up.
How did it do that? What was can you sort of explain how that happened? Like what was put into place, or was it
just things like I don't know about other people, but myself, like you go to those schools, you get your religion thrown down your throat. You're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that, and then biodynamics sort of, for me, as I said, the farming side brought into that toolbox that everything's life. Everything's alive. It's there's a reason for it, and it's a precursor for, you can tell something's going to happen behind it. And in my life, it put a lot of the religious and everything we learnt from school into perspective too for me. And instead of me just parking in a box going, I don't really understand, I don't like it, it's got thrown down my throat, And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go back into that and have a look and explore or experiment with it.
I think the big difference that I've certainly experienced is, at school it was a religion, and outside of that and through, biodynamics, it's more of a spiritual, which is, a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it's a much more deeper, a bit more focus on the soul and the spirit, as opposed to ritual of talking to some bloke upstairs who made everything, which is really out of context and serves a whole lot of other different agendas. I feel. Nines, were you have an angle on it?
So I think that first 2-day course that we did at the farm was mind blowing for me, and I think having been great researchers, just having Hamish explain the philosophy behind the force of life was amazing, and that it just, when we walked away from that course, we looked at our properties and the farms completely differently. We just, and it's almost like it becomes, it's an energetic, it's palpable, you can kind of feel the life force, and you can, and that's one thing that we really noticed from using biodynamics, and we use them across all of our properties, conventional and organic, is the vigor. It's just vibrant. It makes your farms vibrant. Our seeds jump out of the ground. And we can see that because we do contracting as well. So we might, plant the exact same crop, on our neighbour's property, and it's there. It's ready for life. It's beautiful. I get goosebumps thinking about it, and I think, biodynamics, it's a philosophy, but it's a way of life. You can't unsee it once you've seen it, and I think it's such a beautiful way to live, and to farm.
Do you ever get the urge to sneak a bit of biodynamics into it when you do contracting and go, I'm just going to give old mate. He's a nice bloke.
We were told not to do that.
I was told by you and Hamish not to do that.
I'm not suggesting. That was a test.
Well, I've done well. I haven't done it. Unless there's some residue left in the nose tank on the tractor.
Accidentally. Needs, you just said I think you said you see your farm differently, apart from, seeing the vitality, and there's, results in, yield, or, comparing it to as you just said, next door to yours. But is there any other, again, for people thinking about potentially doing doing our course, what would they potentially see on their farms, or what? I'm trying to sort of put some words around it.
I think it's just about aligning ourselves with our place, and and just getting in touch with
weeds anymore.
No, that's not. Well, that's one thing. I mean, I think also, utilizing the calendar. We utilize the biodynamic calendar now, and observation. You actually start. I think, back in the 80s or 90s, it used to be called natural resource monitoring. People used to go out and look at their farms, and that's kind of what we do. And, Hamish was great when we first did the course to say, go out and see what's happening and then come back and see if it's relatable. And I remember waking up one morning and taking a stroll on the farm, and everything was flowering. And I literally went back to the calendar, and it was a flower day, and it was just ridiculous to see how in tune your farm is with the biodynamic calendar, and then, getting yourself into that place and just recognizing the small things. I mean, there's so much change that you can see. Whenever I do my little around the house biodynamic preps, our cows will come from fences, and they will turn up outside the house. They just come and graze on the front lawn. It's so funny. They know.
Do you think they get a sense of there's some good stuff happening
Absolutely.
over here? Were you saying the other day neighbours turn up, cattle turn up?
The neighbours' cattle, cattle from a couple of kilometres away have turned up,
We've had about 6 different NIS tag cattle come in here, and
from somewhere.
From different places.
Which is not unusual, because we always tell a story, and it was actually told at one of our courses that by a woman on I think it was Central Coast, New South Wales, and a cattle truck had turned over on the highway, and I think a lot had been killed, some had to be destroyed, and some had escaped. I think there was half a dozen that escaped. And she, I can't remember if it was her place or someone she knew. There was half a dozen of these cattle that had actually survived and escaped, turned up at her place. And it was like 2, 3, 5 kilometres away of all the places they could have gone. And she only had like 2 acres. And they just turned up in her backyard. Yep. And she was using biodynamics.
Animals, animals are pretty intelligent things. They know what they need to be healthy and survive, don't they? Like, I remember in America, I saw the corn cob. Someone had an organic corn, or it might have just been a generic corn cob and a GMO corn cob. And the GMO corn cob, the birds didn't attack it. It was the other one that was eaten before they went to the...
They were going, what's this foreign, crazy alien thing?
Yeah, it was just an interesting thing that one of the farmers did up there, yeah.
I guess, and some farmers go, well, that's great. I don't want birds eating my corn. They're forgetting that something has to eat that at some point.
Yeah,
generally us.
Talking about food growing for people, what else are you guys doing here? Because we were talking yesterday about some crops, and you've got some... some plans in terms of your cattle and that and sort of thing. Can you tell us about that? Or is that a secret?
No, nothing's a secret with us. So the best thing about here is we're stepping into the hort area now from just the broadacre and row cropping. So we did pumpkins last season, and we've had great feedback on it. We're going to expand in that and try some sweet potatoes, sweet corn, and just dabble a little bit. Yeah, just to... we like to think that whatever we grow, someone's going to be healthier from eating it, not the other way.
It's almost a medicinal.
So that's probably... This is probably aligning with our morals as in a human consumption side of things.
Does that feel like a responsibility somewhat?
Definitely. I mean, everyone wants to help people. I mean, that's the foundation of being a human, isn't it? I think that's another thing also with doing the organics and the biodynamics. Biodynamics is about community. It's about getting together. It's about working together. And that's the beauty of it. You know, we're not here just for ourselves. And, I think that's what we sort of come down to. And, last year when we did our pumpkin crop, we took them off and we cured them in the sun, which is, not something that it took time, it took effort. And, but it's something that we did, and our product was really amazing from it. And just going that extra bit rather than just packing them into a box and putting them into a dark place, making sure that, that it's done properly and done to the best of our ability. So we know that, whoever's going to eat it, it's going to be full of, it's flavour and delicious and well for them, good for them, biodynamics. So, yeah. You're
going to hear a few cars coming in now for the day 2 of the of our BD workshop here. Just getting back to biodynamics, what are some, just to give people a sense of how you've incorporated into cropping? What there's a couple of the preparations that you guys use. How give people a sort of a sense of, how you use it. Do you put it out onto crops before you sow, when with in crop sort of type of thing? Do you use the soil preparations and the atmospherics as well?
Yep. So we we do our compost preps in our compost when we have compost. We do in our fish or kelp, and then. So, like I was saying, if we're cultivating and it's an opportunity, we'll put some brewed biology that we do with our biodynamics down pre-crop, and then as we plant, we seed dress and
ground preps down, the earth preps down when we plant.
Yeah,
and we seed dress.
We seed dress
as well.
Tube,
liquid
inject, and then as we go over either.
A little 501.
Yeah, we put our 501. Like I use 501.
So 501 being the atmospheric. How do you use that? What stage, or what are you trying to do by using that one?
Insects, like it helps with the plants, sugar and insect protection. and general health. So it's a bit like a multiple. If you're getting sick, people will take echinacea or something, like just trying to be there in front of that and assist where we can. When we're into cultivating, we also band spray on. So if there's an opportunity there that arises, we'll do it then. And then talking to Hamish, with organics, bringing in crops for harvesting, there's a potential there to utilise some of the preps to maybe desiccate and uniform as well. So we're going to play around with that. Frost tolerance, he was talking about yesterday. That was an interesting one I never thought about. So we're going to definitely try that.
Basically giving plants a 2 to 4 degree extra tolerance for frost.
Yeah, and I think also, with biodynamics, we haven't had to change anything to use it on any of our farms, really. That's probably there's nothing too scary about it.
The kids love playing in it, though.
The kids love playing
in the flow form.
Yes, the flow form. It's like
getting their kid bathe in it.
Yes, they do. They do.
And you walk out there and they've grown a foot. What holy?
Yeah. No, so we just put it out with everything, and we're lucky. Our tractors out west are all set up for liquid injection. So, and once you have a front tank on, you can literally get like just the nozzle at the back, the boomless nozzle.
Yeah, we've got boomless nozzles.
And it's 40 foot, like it's pretty easy to rig up. And it doesn't have to be expensive either. I'm always, everything's got to be done, at a lower cost if possible. And, so, it's pretty.
So for people listening and croppers and the like, it's not, to be fair to say, it's not a big impost in terms of the gear you need, the change of practice. There's a degree of understanding of potentially when an appropriate time or the best time, but it's not like oh my God, I've just got to turn my production system on its head.
No,
to use.
No, you don't have to be a pure. I mean, we don't believe you have to be a purist. We get it out and we get it on, and sometimes it's unconventional. But
and to my agronomist, I don't know how he'd say it, but he'd always tell me farming was always attention to detail and timing.
Yes. Yes.
That's the trick.
Our agronomist has been working with us for 10 years now, and he's we're still waiting for him to turn up in a caftan one day. He's amazing. He actually is amazing. He's not, he's not your run of the mill. Small people.
They didn't like the look of that youth. We better wrap up pretty quick, smart. Another question, just in terms of your organic group, I think that's fascinating. You've got a number of your organic group here attending the course, so thank you for geeing them up and twisting their arms to get here. Tell me why have you done that? What are the benefits of your little group? Explain what is it?
Yeah, okay. So our group
band of merry men and women.
Yeah, okay. So Noosa Hinterland and Mary Valley is really lucky. We have a farm store here called Kandanga Farm Store, and Tim and Amber run it. They believe that food can be produced without chemicals, and they were the catalyst when we moved here, and they found out. They were like, we've got this organic group. So it's small. And we did that sort of for a reason, just because everyone's time poor. And when you become part of a large group, it kind of dilutes the need for you to be there. Our group is all about keeping each other sort of accountable, and also it provides us the opportunity to visit everyone's farm, so we can then actually be of value and try and, have a bit of a roundtable discussion about any concerns or any issues that we're coming into contact with. It is the most amazing thing. After we've done this, we'll go around and every month we'll do a cow pat pit at everyone's property. Just being able to provide that value. It's so easy. We have great morning teas, great conversation. We've got some really big personalities in there. We've got an amazing, biologist. We've got his homeopath. We've got Tim and Amber. They've got great exposure. We've got an amazing organic avocado, organic lime growers. It's huge diversity. We all do different things, but we all know that with our knowledge, we can sort of solve problems together, and we're much better. And I think it's a bit like Mitch and I was saying last night, together we can do anything, but apart we can't achieve much, and that's very much what we're about. Yeah.
Grab that mic, Mitch. You were going to say something. Don't be shy.
Mate, more opinions the better, isn't it?
More what?
Opinions the better.
And sharing.
Yeah, I think just the sharing of opinions and the putting them on the table, and in a group of people who are on the same page, then there's no offence taken if that opinion isn't picked up and embraced. It's really about, it's nothing personal. It's just like, you know what, that's not necessarily appropriate for my thing or whatever else, but you'd absolutely, the more heads the better,
I agree.
And as long as it's it doesn't get so big as you say, Neens, and get gregarious and is like needs some sort of governance around it and all that sort of rubbish, it's just like it's organic, literally the way it sort of rolls. How many people in the group? Just what's the nice tidy number that you're finding?
It's probably about 9 or something, 10. And
so it's one farm visit a year, essentially.
Yeah, and we're just like a bunch of mates, we love getting together. We go Kandanga Farm Store, they've got a cafe attached to the farm store, so it's pretty nice. And so, we can go there, have a coffee, and it's just fun. It's bringing the fun back into farming, and that's where it's at,
Yeah, a bit of culture too.
Yes.
Like good social interaction.
And we're all different ages as well, and that's great.
I think we better wrap it up, guys, because I'm just conscious we've got more people rolling in. We've got stuff to probably... We dug our cow manure concentrate pit last night, so that's done. That's cool. We're going to fill that up today.
It's the fanciest one we've ever had here too.
It is.
Thanks, Charlie.
No, well, that's fine. Look, it's all about just grabbing the resources available.
I noticed my daughter took a great photo of Hugo and I digging while Charlie was just standing.
Someone has to be the overseer of those sort of projects. So I think, look, I could chat for much longer because I really dig what you guys are doing. You're really inspiring, and there's the cropping side of it, which I'm fascinated with, and I think there's so much more to talk about there because I think that's one of the missing links. I think the grazing stuff and let's call it organics or biodynamics or regenerative ag is there's a lot of people doing really good stuff, and you can read books about it, you can watch videos and the whole thing. The cropping thing, that's a much bigger unknown, and that's where there's a lot more at stake in some ways because it's there are inputs that need to be bought and applied, and there's timing involved, and then there's all those things, and there's cost, and then there's the outcome of, I'm going to stuff it up, and is this going to kill it? Is it, there's so many, by its very nature, there's more variables and more layers of understanding. Yeah. But I think what I sense from you guys and what I understand, what I see, and just knowing you guys, it's, nothing's perfect. I'm not saying you guys have found the perfect answer. I think the lovely thing is that you're actually experimenting. You're being courageous to do that. You're really breaking new ground, in what you're doing. And you're not just, you're not commodity farmers anymore. You're selling pumpkins to people. You're growing food.
We're growing seeds as well, and not just feed grains and things like that. Yeah. And we're trying to get away from as many feed grains as possible, really.
Yeah, we're sort of trying to get back more into seeds and pulse legumes. But the thing is, I always say, we are always open to chat, and if anyone wants to get in touch, we are on Facebook and Instagram, and we don't keep our cards close to our chest. We think that the world can benefit from, and if commodity prices change because a lot of people get into the organic market, that's fine. We're going to deal with that. It's not. We're not concerned about that. We want to see as many people going into regenerative farming. Dropping out the urea, the things that we don't actually need, and we've proven that we don't. There are some things that you can just 100% get rid of without changing much. So, get in touch. And
new people bring new ideas too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
That we don't even think about.
That's right. I mean, it sometimes can be innocent questions or naive questions that can actually
spark
to a professional or experienced person go, oh my God, I never even thought of that. A clear set of eyes and a whole different perspective on it. So, I am totally up for supporting anything you guys are doing in the out west here. I know that well, you guys have a website, Bray Farms, and you're doing some really cool stuff. There's some little extra bits in there that if you go to the website, you'll suss out what the guys are up to. A few sort of plans in terms of more, food you're going to be providing.
Very big plans. Not all of them can be shared just yet, but I've got some big things in the pipeline.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. So and again, it's going to. I'm glad you're not worried about people catching up with you, because no one's going to catch up with you, I don't think, in terms of commodity prices or going, oh no, like you guys you're a couple of steps ahead of the pack. It's not about being competitive, it's just about being progressive, and you guys are really doing that. So thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here and you're hosting, the fact you came to our course a couple of years ago, and what I see it has done for you. You're already on the path anyway, which is fantastic. And then jumping into biodynamics, and it's clearly utilisation in lots of different facets of what you're doing. It really warms my heart, because it's the practical application, and it's the very visual results and the very tangible results. Yeah. And there's also the non less tangible results that I see as a really good example of what can be done with it. When it's embraced, as you guys have.
Definitely.
Yeah, so we love it. Yeah.
Well, we love you too.
Oh.
And we're going to have to wrap it up, because we've got day 2.
Yeah.
We better get on it. We've been at it for a while now, and I can't wait to pump this one out. And I'm just going to I just hope and I pray that we can get as many croppers to listen to this, not to sort of identify what they should be doing, but just to give them, it's a bit like the opinion, put it on the table and see what happens, and sort of think about how you can change your potentially, paradigms and the way you do things to do it, dare I say, a better job, and changing KPIs, like conventional, I guess maybe back then your KPIs were probably very economically based, and maybe your own health wasn't a KPI, and maybe some other ecological things weren't KPIs. Dare I say now, I reckon your KPIs are a bit different, yeah?
Absolutely.
Totally different, right? Yeah. And
I think also, I think the biggest thing at the start of our journey compared to now was the fact that I was such a purist at the start of the journey, and I wanted everything to be perfect, and it stopped me from doing anything, But now it's like, you've just got to get it. Life's a bit chaotic sometimes, and you've just got to get it done. And, it's worked out really well. But you don't have to have all of your ducks in a line to start this stuff, It's pretty simple. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Give it a shot. As we say, 80% of something's better than 100% of nothing.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much for what you do too, as well.
Yeah,
that's a pleasure, mate. It's a real joy doing this stuff, knowing that it's embraced and picked up and applied. That's the important thing. Yeah. As Scotty
drives the gator,
finishes off the interview with the noise of the gator. Oh, can I just say, just a quick before we do take off. People, the value of people. You've got some really amazing people working for you. Scotty's fantastic, and he told me his little story there yesterday. Christina is amazing. She's everywhere, doing everything. Like,
she's everything.
I have to say, it's a credit to you guys for clearly attracting those sort of people.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts about that?
Yeah.
Is it important to have nice people?
It's just so important to have nice people. And
sharing the same.
Absolutely. And sharing the same values. And that's why these guys are here, doing the course. They're really important, and their opinion's really important. And, we just want to nurture them. And
agriculture needs more and more people too, yeah.
And whatever you want to be, you can be in agriculture. Food's amazing. It's such a good industry to be in, and I support anyone to come into agriculture. I think it's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, even someone in the backyard can call themselves a little farmer. They're in agriculture, they're growing food, and they're caring for their backyard, their environment,
being
the birds
sustainable,
in there, the grass, the carrots, the whatever else.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Nice one, guys. We better get wrapped up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Catch up with you very soon. Can't wait to get this one out.
Thank you.
There you go, on the veranda of their house overlooking their wonderful farm there in the Sunshine Coast, up there near Kin. so much good stuff there, and I really hope that was of interest to farmers out there who are wondering how can we actually use this stuff in a cropping situation, because they are doing a really good job at that, and they're just delightful people. Talking about delightful people, my next guest next week is Neil Perry, none other than world famous chef. He was just wonderful catching up with Neil. He very, very busy man. He very kindly gave me some time there upstairs, one of the private rooms at Rockpool Bar and Grill in Sydney. We talked all sorts of things. Fascinating, because I just had no idea, that Neil's regenerative journey started when he was very young. You'll have to listen to the episode to find out why, what I mean. But very generous with his time, very generous with his helping of others as well, and that we talk about that in the interview. So look, I hope you really looking forward to, as much as I am, Neil Perry's interview next week.
This podcast is produced by Rhys Jones at Jaeger Media. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe, share, rate and review. For more episode information, please head over to www.charliearnott.com.au.